The only life that we are certain about so far in the entire universe is on planet Earth. Whether that life is intelligent is, let's say, arguable. But anyway, it's not surprising that we're tirelessly searching for life on other planets. So far, they've discovered more than 4,000 of them. But what's even cooler, NASA has compiled a new list of 24 planets that aren't just Earth-like, they're better. The conditions on them are so good that they're more comfortable than on our planet. So let's examine some of them. Let's be koi, K-O-I, shall we? This wonderful planet is in the constellation Cygnus. And why is it so wonderful? Well, our sun is a yellow dwarf. And sorry, sun, even though you're not bad at supporting life, there are some stars that can do it better. Nothing personal. The planet KOI 5715.01 orbits near an orange dwarf. Orange dwarfs are stars slightly smaller than our sun and have a little lower luminosity. Did you like the alliteration there? Anyway, don't worry, it doesn't mean we're going to live in complete darkness. In fact, if the planet is found closer to the sun and it has a thicker atmosphere, it may even be lighter and more colorful than on Earth. Our sun has a very short lifespan. Right now, it has 7 to 8 billion years left to live, a little longer than the Earth's age. But orange dwarfs can live from 45 to 70 billion years. This is great not only because we'll be able to hang out on this planet longer, but also because the planets around these stars have more time to form life. Ideally, we need to find a planet next to an orange dwarf that is about 7 billion years old. It's very likely that there will be at least some organisms there. KOI 57115.01 is about 5.5 billion years old. Yeah, it may not seem mature enough, but that's okay, neither do I. Our Earth is a billion years younger, and that didn't stop us. The planet is quite close to its star and is in a habitable zone. 1 year there lasts 190 days. Imagine going to elementary school and already getting a driver's license. It's almost 2 times larger than the Earth. The average temperature there is 52 degrees, which is slightly less than ours, 57 degrees. But it most likely feels warmer there, because strong gravity helps it hold onto heat in the atmosphere longer. It's a little too far away though, like 3,000 light years from Earth, which is about 18 quadrillion miles. Yup, better bring a really big lunch with you. KOI 3010.01. This planet is found next to the star KOI 2010. This planet sounds like a very pleasant world. The average temperature on this planet is 67 degrees, so a little warmer than ours. But that's a good thing. Scientists believe that on a perfect planet, the temperature should be just about 10 degrees hotter than on the Earth. The more heat there is on the planet, the more comfortable it's to live there. Also, the higher chances of developing life. The radius of this planet is nearly 1 1/2 times larger than Earth. There's some atmosphere, although we're not yet sure about its composition. But it's probably like the Earth's. Scientists think that we'll find an ocean there, and it can cover up to 60% of the surface, which is also cool. In a perfect world, water and land should be distributed more evenly than on our planet. A little more land means a little more territory and resources, right? But listen, this planet is actually very similar to the Earth. The resemblance is so striking that scientists believe that we have an 84% chance to find life there. Of course, not necessarily an intelligent life, but at least some animals. Wouldn't that be cool? What do you think they could look like? Very Earth-like planet, but with stronger gravity. If someone lives there, they're probably big but have a small height and strong little legs. Sounds adorable and scary. But we won't be able to find out the truth anytime soon. So far, for us, these planets are microscopic dots in space. We only have some dry, boring data about them, and don't even know what they look like. We'll have to wait until we can find a way to get closer to these planets. Kepler 186f. This is also one of the best candidates for having life. This rather cute planet was nicknamed the Earth's cousin, because it does have a strong resemblance. Anyway, these two planets are like sisters, not twins. Kepler 186f rotates near the red dwarf, Red dwarfs are stars even dimmer and smaller than orange dwarfs. Yeah, they'll also live for a very, very long time, but their luminosity is also quite low. However, Kepler 186f is closer to its star than we're to our sun, so it shouldn't be too dark there. Well, at least not night-like dark. The sky on this planet is sure to be an unusual shade of red, like sunsets on Earth. What do you think? Would you like to live on a planet with an eternal sunset? The size of this planet is about the same as Earth. Not bad, not perfect. Why so? Because the coolest planets are those that are bigger than Earth and have stronger gravity. You'll probably say, but won't it be harder to walk there and even harder to get out of bed on Monday? Of course. But on the other hand, this planet will pull the atmosphere better. The atmosphere will be thicker and denser. This means more protection from the scary space stuff, more oxygen, and more heat. Not to mention the fact that the bigger planets have more space to settle. Awesome, right? But, of course, the Earth's size is also an excellent choice. Another cool fact is that the tilt of Kepler 186f is about the same as ours. It means that there should be stable seasons and a normal day-night cycle. Do you know how important the tilt of the planet is? Let's look at Mars. Mars is also, in fact, found in the habitable zone of our sun, but its tilt is very unstable, and as a result, the entire ocean that could have been on it once now completely dried up. Today it's just a red desert, and there is no life there, at least not as far as we know. But you see how important these tiny details are? This planet is also quite far away from us, 490 light years. It's about 3 quadrillion miles. So yeah, we're just going to keep waiting for intergalactic travel. Kepler 62z and Kepler 62f. These planets were called the most Earth-like before we discovered Kepler 186f. They're very comparable to our home. Kepler 62m is about 1.5 times larger than Earth, and Kepler 62f is just slightly smaller than that. They're located in the constellation Lyra, about 1,200 light-years away from us. They both also orbit a red dwarf. 1 year on Kepler 62e lasts about 122 days, even less than on that first planet we've talked about. Scientists believe that both 62e and 62f are sort of water worlds. Warm places mostly, or even completely, covered with water. If there is land there, it's probably just some islands. A world consisting entirely of islands. A fantasy dream for some. Think Hawaii, and a nightmare for others. Think Megalodon. But if you're a fan of ancient marine animals, just imagine how gigantic they could be there. Still, there are many things we don't know about this planet. Does it have a surface? What is its composition? Density? One day, maybe we'll be able to answer these questions. And so, that's it for the super Earths. Of course, the original list is much longer, and you can go check it out on the internet. The best thing about all this is that these are the planets that are better than the Earth. But we also know thousands of other exoplanets that are just close enough to ours. And the odds are a few of them have at least some form of life. But they're very, very far away, so we have no way to check it right now. Perhaps down the road, we'll find some cool creatures on many of them. Imagine a still frozen world. It's ancient, about 4.5 billion years old. It's barely heated by the rays of the sun and covered with a thick layer of ice. This world is smaller than our moon, but a bit larger than Pluto. Its name is Europa, the 6th satellite of Jupiter and one of the biggest moons in the solar system. But the coolest thing about this faraway place, it might host life. Astronomers consider Europa one of the most promising places in the solar system to search for new life forms. All because this moon has a huge saltwater ocean with a depth of 40 to 100 miles. Yes, it is hidden under a layer of ice that is estimated to be from 10 to 20 miles thick, but it is still potentially habitable. Astronomers claim that plumes of water erupt from cracks in the ice shell and release the contents of the moon's ocean into space. Of course, it's going to be challenging for any life-seeking missions to access such a deep environment. On the bright side, scientists already have some evidence that there are way shallower pools that probably lie much closer to the surface of the moon. They might be located even less than 1 mile under the ice. And there are two great things about this news. First of all, it boosts the odds of life existing on Europa. And secondly, if it's true, it can make it easier for future missions to find these life forms, if there are any. Interestingly, the new discovery about these shallow pools came about by sheer luck. The scientist leading the research, Riley Kohlberg, accidentally saw a presentation of his colleague, a planetary scientist. That scientist showed a picture of double ridges on the surface of Europa, and Kohlberg remembered that he had seen similar ridges on Earth. But while such formations are rare on our planet, they are way more numerous on Europa. The following studies suggested that the ridges on Jupiter's moon might be the result of a specific cycle, similar to that on Earth. In this cycle, liquid water freezes and then thaws inside an ice sheet, which is a rather high-pressure environment. This causes the sheet to move upward over and over again, creating a two-peak structure, or at least that's what happens on Earth. If the processes on Europa are similar, it can prove the presence of shallow waters on the satellite. Of course, the temperature, pressure, and chemistry are very different on Europa, and scientists don't know yet how the ice behaves there. That's why they can't understand how deep or large the water pockets are, or how long they need to refreeze. But what is more or less clear is that such under-ice environments on Europa are very likely to be protected from Jupiter's harsh radiation, battering the satellite's surface, which, in turn, increases the chances of life existing on Europa. Now, can we get back to the fact that the ocean on Europa seems to be salty? Red streaks on the satellite's surface might have this color due to their chemical content. They're likely a frozen mixture of water and salts. This is quite unusual because such a composition doesn't match any known substance here on Earth. As for yellow spots on Europa's surface, those might be caused by the presence of sodium chloride. You know this substance as good old table salt. Scientists tried to recreate the conditions on Europa in a lab. They discovered that by combining water, table salt, freezing temperatures, and high pressure, they could get a new kind of solid crystal. This substance might exist both at the bottom of Europa's ocean and on the moon's surface. But besides this information, researchers are in the dark. Hopefully, we'll find the answers to some of these questions around 2030. That's when a mission called Europa Clipper, which is going to be launched by NASA, will probably reach Europa. The mission is going to have several close flybys and figure out if any form of life can exist on the moon. The European Space Agency's JUICE, which stands for the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is going to visit Europa in the next couple of years too. But Europa isn't the only place in the solar system that might host or once hosted life. In 2003, Mars Express, a spacecraft launched by the European Space Agency, discovered methane in the atmosphere of Mars. On our planet, the biggest part of this gas in the atmosphere is produced by living creatures, for example, by cattle digesting food. However, scientists think that methane was stable in the Martian atmosphere for about 300 years, and then, in 2006, the methane almost entirely vanished from the red planet, and it happened 600 times faster than researchers' models accounted for. The question, what or who generated the gas, and where did it go? Another Martian mystery is microbes that may be sleeping beneath the surface of Mars. There, they might have been protected from the harsh radiation coming from space for millions of years. Scientists simulated the conditions on Mars in a lab to check if it could possibly be true, and they were amazed to find out that bacteria could easily survive in such conditions for 280 million years. Which means that if life existed on Mars, we could find the evidence in the planet's subsurface by drilling into the Martian soil. Right now, there is no flowing water on Mars, and cells or spores would simply dry out. Plus, the surface temperature is similar to that of dry ice. In other words, the surface of the planet is deeply frozen, and still, there could be 6 types of bacteria and fungi living underground on the red planet. The most likely of them is nicknamed Conan the Bacterium, due to its tough nature. Well, I guess time will show. Now let's move to Venus. In 2020, scientists announced that in the toxic Venusian atmosphere, there was something that might mean the existence of life. Unfortunately, scientists didn't have any evidence since there was no chance to collect any microbe specimens or snap any pictures of extraterrestrial life. But they claimed that they had discovered a chemical called phosphine there, and it was a big deal. If it wasn't some previously unknown chemistry that was producing this gas, then there could be some kind of microbial life involved in the process. Phosphine is made up of 3 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of phosphorus. This gas is toxic to any terrestrial life form that needs oxygen, including us humans. On our planet, phosphine can be found in places with no or little oxygen, for example, marshes and swamps. The gas is created by complex mixtures of bacteria living there. It can also be produced industrially. Come to think of it, phosphine isn't supposed to be in Venus's atmosphere altogether. This gas needs precise pressure and temperature and tons of hydrogen to form. It wouldn't be all that surprising to find it on Saturn or Jupiter, famous gas giants. But on Venus? Totally unexpected. There's no way phosphine can be naturally produced on this planet. Tiny amounts of it can be created during volcanic eruptions, lightning storms, minerals blown up to the surface, or meteorites entering Venus's atmosphere, but not as much as astronomers thought they had observed, and it had to make scientists suspicious. But they were too happy about their discovery. They probably thought it meant there could be life on Venus. But even if this gas was created by some mysterious organisms, it would be a big question how they survived on Venus. On our planet, some microbes can thrive in environments with an acidity of 5%, but no more. On Venus, though, clouds are almost entirely made of acid, containing more than 90% of sulfuric acid. The Venusian atmosphere is also 50 times as dry as the driest place on our home planet. And indeed, in 2022, thanks to better and more high-resolution telescopes, it was concluded that there was no phosphine in Venus's atmosphere, or even if there was, it was a very small amount. So far, we need to look for signs of life further away from Earth. It's been more than a year since the James Webb telescope, which had taken over 20 years to complete, was launched, and for such a relatively short time, the ultra-modern and most powerful in history piece of equipment has already made plenty of discoveries. By observing the universe at infrared wavelength, James Webb lets us see things no other telescope has ever shown before. The primary goal of this incredible piece of equipment is to study the formation of galaxies and stars that appeared in the early universe. For example, look at the closest to us stellar nursery, a region of space where new stars get born. NASA has shared an image from James Webb that shows a small star-forming region. If you look at the picture attentively, you'll see jets bursting from infant stars. Around them, different colored clouds of cosmic dust are colliding with one another. The view is mesmerizing. The red dust consists of molecular hydrogen. You can also notice that some stars have something like shadows. Those hint at the creation of what will later become planets. At first sight, the image may seem chaotic, but astronomers claim that it's a relatively small and quiet stellar nursery in comparison to some others. Many young stars there are similar in size to our sun or a bit smaller. The photo itself was taken with the help of Webb's near-infrared camera, NIRCam. It's the observatory's primary camera that snaps images of the cosmos in 2 different infrared ranges. Another amazing discovery the Webb telescope has made is smoke molecules in a distant galaxy. It's the first time such molecules have been discovered so far away from our planet. The galaxy in question lies 12.3 billion light-years away from Earth. It most likely formed about 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang. Despite such a huge distance between the galaxy and our planet, scientists have managed to detect chemical compounds found in soot or smoke. And it's quite a big deal, since it has pushed the record for detecting similar, complex molecules back by around 1 billion years. This study has also confirmed the sheer power of the coolest piece of space equipment of all time. it managed to make this discovery despite the fact that the spectrometer needed for the measurements didn't perform to the fullest after having experienced a sudden and surprising degradation. The James Webb Telescope has also helped to boost our understanding of exoplanets. Those are planets orbiting stars other than our own sun. At the beginning of 2023, the observatory spotted its first exoplanet, CHES 475b. It's located 41 light-years away from Earth and is approximately the same size as our planet. According to NASA, nowadays, James Webb is the only operating telescope capable of categorizing the atmosphere of Earth-sized exoplanets. The research team behind the discovery believes such results underline the precision of the telescope. They hope that it will help us locate many more rocky exoplanets that we might be able to colonize in the future. Even though, at first sight, it may seem that the universe is pretty empty, it's actually a very busy place. And Webb has all the necessary instruments to see all kinds of cosmic events happening out there. Just look at this image of WR 124. It's a star on the cusp of its explosive demise. In the image, the star is about to go supernova. It happens when a star runs out of its fuel and explodes at the end of its life cycle, releasing a giant cloud of space dust and hot gas into space. The star captured by the Webb telescope was at the Wolf-Rayet stage of its life. That's a period when a star is shedding its outer layers before going supernova. The next amazing thing discovered by James Webb is a star-planet hybrid with very strange clouds. This bizarre world, VS 1256b, is actually a brown dwarf. Those are bigger than planets but too small to classify as stars. They emit some light of their own and are quite hot, but their mass is simply not enough to fuse hydrogen into helium, like full-fledged stars do. Space bodies of this kind aren't actually brown. They occur in a wide variety of colors, but those are mostly invisible to the human eye. What we can see is the light they emit, and to us, it appears to be dark orange or magenta. The brown dwarf discovered by the Webb telescope is almost 20 times the size of Jupiter. It orbits 2 red dwarf stars, and to complete one orbit, it needs over 10,000 years. Astronomers first found out about this unusual exoplanet in 2016, but at that time, they didn't classify it as a brown dwarf, and thus couldn't explain its puzzling reddish glow. Now, thanks to the James Webb telescope, they know the space object's origin. Anyway, back to those clouds. As you know, clouds on Earth are made of water vapor, but those on the brown dwarf are different. They seem to be made of sand. It looks like good old sand from Earth, but it's actually not. The clouds are made of tiny particles of silicate. Another recent discovery involves several large galaxies that scientists believe were born not long after the Big Bang. They aren't supposed to be there, and no one expected to find them, but the James Webb Space Telescope has spotted them. These galaxies, as massive as our home Milky Way, are full of mature red stars. Astronomers have analyzed the light coming from them and estimated their age. 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. It means that they came into being when our universe was very young, almost a baby. But the most bizarre thing about these galaxies is their tremendous size and the age of the stars dwelling there. The data received by the telescope don't coincide with the existing ideas about what the universe looked like and how it evolved in its early years. It also doesn't match the earlier observations made by Hubble. And here, James Webb has captured a distant region of space in unprecedented detail. This section of space is known as Pandora's cluster. In the image, you can see 3 massive clusters of galaxies coming together and forming a megacluster. The combined mass of these clusters acts as a powerful gravitational lens, and thanks to this natural magnification effect, scientists can see other galaxies in the region. Astronomers claim that the most recent image of Pandora's cluster is stronger and deeper than they have ever seen. James Webb has also managed to spot thousands of young stars never seen before in the Tarantula Nebula. This space formation got its nickname because of the appearance of dusty filaments spotted in previous images. It's the biggest star-forming region in the local group, which includes the galaxies nearest to the Milky Way, The Webb telescope's images have helped to shed light on the composition of the Tarantula Nebula. The telescope has also detected protostars, infant stars in the process of gaining mass. Astronomers expect that these protostars will eventually form and shape the nebula further. Among other discoveries made by the James Webb Telescope, you can see the birth of 50 distant stars. Some of them power protoplanetary disks, which might later form solar systems, light years away from our own. Here is one more image from James Webb. You can see a supermassive black hole that has a mass of 9 billion suns. It's so ginormous and ancient that scientists are struggling to explain its existence. Astronomers have also discovered a distant ring of dust, rock, and gas that contains a chemical called methylcation. It's known as a molecular building block of life, and it makes most of the organic material on our planet. James Webb helped researchers see powerful sandstorms on a planet 378 trillion kilometers away. Astronomers were happy to discover this treasure chest of countless tiny sand particles. Now look at this. Do you recognize this image? Those are the so-called pillars of creation, but this new view shows us just how star-speckled that dusty region actually is. You can compare the new photo with the one taken by Hubble in 2014. This is astonishing proof of scientific progress. You get the last instructions from the team and get into your spaceship. It's the first spacecraft made on Earth that can move at a speed close to the speed of light. Your task is to visit the most unusual and terrifying places in space and send scientists detailed information about them. And so your journey begins. Your spacecraft is accelerating, and you dash past the moon. In the distance, you see a small reddish planet. It's Mars. And look at that spectacular giant surrounded by a set of rings. That's Saturn. You wish you could have more time to explore this gas giant, but you have to hurry. You pass by beautiful stars. Some of them are luminous, others have a reddish hue, and some seem to be dimming. That's Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky on Earth. It's about 8.6 light years away from us, but you're traveling fast, and soon you see Polaris, aka the North Star, which is way further. 431 light years away. Sometimes you manage to spot tiny dots circling these stars. Those are planets, and then suddenly you see nothing. At first, you're horrified. Has something gone wrong and you've accidentally entered a black hole? Has your equipment malfunctioned? Because it seems that at a distance of 700 million light years away from Earth, there's a hole. A blank void with no galaxies, stars, planets, or asteroids. You can see nothing. The void is a roughly spherical region about 330 million light years across. Our home Milky Way galaxy could fit there billions of times over. And then it dawns on you. What you're looking at is the mysterious Bode's void. It lies about 700 million light years away from Earth in the constellation of Botas, the herdsman driving the plow around the North Pole. At first, this void was called the Great Nothing, but later it was given its current name. Now we know that galaxies look like a giant web. Most of them are parts of long structures called filaments. Those wind through the cosmos, and when they meet, they form regions with a high concentration of galaxies. These regions are what we know as galaxy clusters, but between these clusters and threads, there are ginormous empty voids that hardly contain any galaxies. Such voids actually make up almost 80% of the observable universe, and most of them are huge, from 30 to 300 million light years wide. The Bode's void is one of the most massive ones. It has even earned the title of supervoid. Astronomers think it might be the result of a few smaller voids merging together. But what could have caused such giant empty areas to appear in the first place? The reason might lie in the origin of the universe. In its early days, all the matter in the universe was packed together quite tightly. Astronomers even think it was something like a uniform soup. But pretty soon, random quantum fluctuations started distributing this matter. Some areas became denser. As a result, their gravitational pull became stronger and they began stealing matter from less dense regions. This made such areas even denser, and they kept attracting more and more matter. At the same time, smaller clumps of matter started drifting further away from the center, forming galaxies. After staring at nothingness for some time, you decide to explore other space objects and start the engine of your spacecraft again. There's one kind of space formation you've been looking forward to seeing: nebulas. Those are gigantic clouds of gas and dust. With time, gravity starts to pull these clumps of dust and gas together. They grow larger and larger, and their gravity gets more powerful. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? One day, this mass becomes so big that it collapses under its own gravity and forms new stars. So you decide to visit some of the most beautiful nebulas out there. And you start with the Butterfly Nebula. This butterfly's wingspan is more than 3 light years, and the structure inside the nebula is one of the most complicated ever observed. The central star, a white dwarf, is heated to an incredible 250,000 HRC. It means it was formed from a gargantuan star, likely more than 5 times the size of our Sun. The white dwarf is surrounded by a thick disk of dust and gas at the equator. That's what probably makes the whole structure look like an hourglass or a butterfly. The next place you decide to visit is the Eskimo Nebula, 5,000 light-years away from Earth in the constellation of Gemini. It was discovered more than 200 years ago and got its name for a reason. Its double shell formation looks like a person's face, hidden in a padded hood of a winter jacket. But in reality, this parka is a disk of material with a ring of comet-shaped objects. And the tails of these objects stream away from the star at the center of the Eskimo Nebula. The bizarre orange streaks in the outer part of the cloud stretch light years away in all directions. As for the Eskimo's face, even though it resembles a ball of twine, in reality, it's a bubble of material blown into space by the wind of high-speed material produced by the central star. Your next destination is the Ring Nebula. At first sight, it's a giant cloud of dust and gas surrounding an old, almost extinguished star, which does look like a ring, but astronomers say the nebula isn't a bagel, it's a jelly-filled donut. The deep space colorful object more than 2,000 light-years away from Earth is actually a ring that wraps around a blue, ball-shaped structure. Each end of this structure sticks out of the ring's opposite sides. Now, you can head to a place called the Pillars of Creation. You find it more than 7,000 light-years away from Earth in the Eagle Nebula. That's a young cluster of stars just 5.5 million years old, space babies. Once, the Hubble Space Telescope managed to take an image of several dark silhouettes near the nebula's center. And now you can see them with your own eyes. Those are the so-called Pillars of Creation, an active star-forming region. And since you've already visited a star-forming region, why don't you drop by a living fossil galaxy? For example, at Sussii, it's as big as the Milky Way, but it's nearly invisible because its stars are spread out incredibly thinly. But what makes the galaxy so unique is that it's sitting all alone, unlike other galaxies of this kind, which are usually found in clusters. It can mean that DGSat was formed in a different era, probably a mere 1 billion years after the Big Bang. If it's true the galaxy is a real living fossil, the next stop on your space sightseeing tour is the Black Widow Pulsar. Just like its spider namesake, this rotating neutron star, J1311 3SFAR 3, is munching on its partner, a lightweight brown dwarf star. The more material the pulsar consumes, the more slowly it spins. The energy the neutron star is losing in the process causes the companion star to dwindle. Oh, look at this! That's a stellar nursery in the constellation of Centaurus. But even though this place might be called nursery, it's anything but peaceful or safe. This region, made up of hydrogen and newborn stars, is located in a nebula in the constellation of Centaurus, around 6,500 light-years away from Earth. The intense energy these baby stars emit makes hydrogen clouds glow ominous red. This energy is so powerful that it's eating away dark clouds of dust, and they're disappearing like lumps of butter on a hot frying pan. You're continuing your journey when you see something absolutely amazing. A cloud of water floating in space. To be more precise, it's a cloud of water vapor surrounding a supermassive black hole 12 billion light-years away from Earth. The cloud contains 140 trillion times the entire volume of water on our planet. Astronomers believe this water cloud appeared just 1.6 billion years later than the universe itself. Imagine a black hole, a terrifyingly dense space object, pulling inside everything that comes too close. Nothing can escape its clutches, even a beam of light. And now, imagine two of these space monsters colliding. Scary? You bet! Astronomers have spotted two supermassive black holes, feasting on the cosmic material of two merging galaxies in distant space. This phenomenon is the closest to colliding black holes we have ever seen. Supermassive black holes are the largest among all black holes out there. Their mass can be hundreds of thousands or even millions to billions of times larger than of our suns. And two such giants have been recently spotted with the help of an array of telescopes in northern Chile's Atacama Desert, the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array of Telescopes, ALMA. Astronomers originally used these telescopes to watch two merging galaxies located approximately 500 million light-years away from Earth. Thanks to being alert at all times, scientists have also noticed that two gigantic black holes were growing alongside each other. Apparently, these black holes came across each other when their host galaxies collided. One of the black holes is around 200 million times the mass of our Sun, and the other is a bit smaller, only 125 million times larger. We can't see black holes directly. If you were to travel to a black hole, you wouldn't notice it until it was too late. The only detail that would give away the approaching black hole would be a slight blurring of distant stars due to the hole's gravitational lensing effect. The two black holes we are talking about are no different. They aren't visible directly, but are surrounded by bright clusters of warm, glowing gas and stars. All of this has been tugged close by the black hole's gravitational pull. Time will pass, and these black holes will start circling each other, and eventually they will collide, creating one, probably even bigger black hole. Scientists have been observing these black holes across multiple wavelengths of light, and have come to the conclusion that they are unique. They're located the closest to each other astronomers have ever seen. The distance between them is a mere 750 light-years, which, astronomically speaking, is just next door. Even more exciting, this distance is close to the limit of what modern technologies can detect. The thing is, such ginormous merges are more typical for distant galaxies. This makes it harder for Earth-based telescopes to see them. But the sensitivity of ALMA, Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array of Telescopes, helped astronomers observe those bright and compact regions where matter swirls around the black holes. Imagine how surprised astronomers were when, instead of one black hole, they discovered two of them, munching on the dust and gas stirred up by the massive space merger. Galaxy mergers are way more common in the distant universe than in our neighborhood, and this discovery may mean that such black hole binaries are likely to be much more common than we previously thought too. And if pairs of black holes are so common, it might make it easier for us to study gravitational waves. These waves, also known as ripples in space-time, occur when black holes collide. If we talk about the recently discovered pair of black holes, it might still take them several 100 million years to crash into each other. But by observing their behavior, scientists can figure out how many binary black holes there are that are about to collide in the universe. Also, this may give us more insight into what is going to happen when our home Milky Way galaxy collides with the Andromeda galaxy in around 4.5 billion years. By the way, the first photo of a black hole was taken in 2019. An international team of scientists consisting of more than 200 astronomers had been working for years to get this result. And their efforts finally paid off. The object in the photo is about 55 light-years away from Earth, at the center of the galaxy M87. You can now admire this amazing space phenomenon thanks to the work of a vast global network of telescopes called the Event Horizon Telescope Collaboration, or simply EHT. The event horizon is a point of no return on the outskirts of a black hole. Once something, for example, matter, radiation, or light, reaches this boundary, there is no way for it to escape. To capture the very first image of a black hole, scientists created a virtual telescope that turned out as big as our planet by combining the power of 8 radio telescopes. But it wasn't an easy feat. The researchers had to simultaneously point the telescopes in a meticulously planned order with the help of precise atomic clocks set on each telescope. Plus, they were constantly monitoring the amount of moisture in the air, since too much humidity would ruin the images. To keep the chances of rain to a minimum, they even constructed the telescopes in super dry regions, such as the Atacama Desert in Chile and the South Pole. All in all, the process resembled a carefully coordinated dance. But thanks to these preparations, in over 2 weeks, the telescopes collected 5,000 trillion bytes of data. It was then processed by several supercomputers, and scientists finally got the long-awaited images. And what they observed was a monster of a black hole measuring about 25 billion miles across. Now, how about we talk about the coolest black hole facts? There are baby black holes called primordial, and they are really tiny. They vary from the size of an atom to that of a mountain. There is a theory that galaxies get formed around black holes. This means that when a large star explodes, a black hole appears in its place, and then the rest of the galaxy just forms around it. There is a supermassive black hole right in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy. Its name is Sagittarius A, pronounced A star, and it's 4 million times as heavy as the Sun. And nope, we aren't going to be pulled into this hole. It's more than 26,000 light-years away from Earth. That's too far for this monster to have any influence on our planet. Besides Sagittarius A, there are 100 million medium-sized black holes in our galaxy. And can you imagine how many black holes in total there are in all 100 billion galaxies that exist out there? You do the math. If you ever find yourself near a black hole, be ready that time will slow down significantly. It may work for you if you aren't so eager to grow older. Just don't let yourself be tugged into the event horizon. Whoops, bye-bye. Black holes aren't some hungry predators that roam the universe preying on poor, unsuspecting planets. They just gulp down the stuff that ends up too close to them. On top of that, they sometimes fling out spitballs the size of a planet. How does this matter escape the pull of black holes? Typically, it manages to slip away before going past the point of no return. In fact, with Sagittarius A, we should be worried not about its gravitational pull, but about the very spitballs. After all, the monster black hole hurls them in the direction of Earth at a speed of 20 million miles per hour. What if, one day, one of them reaches our planet? If you managed to squeeze Earth to the size of a cherry tomato, it would turn into a black hole. In fact, you could also become one if you agreed to be scaled down to an atom. South African astronomers have recently come across another head-scratching black hole mystery. In a region of distant space, they noticed that several black holes located in different galaxies aligned in the same direction. It looks as if their gas emissions have been synchronized by design. Nowadays, scientists can't explain why and how black holes, which are about 300 million light-years away from one another, can be acting in unison. It's a puzzlement. The Hubble Space Telescope was put into a low Earth orbit in 1990. If you think about it, it has had over 30 years of experience looking at various space objects. It was named after astronomer Edwin Hubble and was built by NASA. It is also part of a group of devices called NASA's Great Observatories, along with the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and the Spitzer Space Telescope. The Hubble Space Telescope was built to explore the universe and answer some of its biggest questions, such as how galaxies form and evolve, and how the universe itself has changed over time. The telescope has made many important discoveries, including providing evidence of the existence of dark matter and helping to determine the rate of expansion of the universe. One of the most famous images taken by the Hubble Space Telescope is the Pillars of Creation. It's a photo of a region of the Eagle Nebula where new stars are born. The photo, which was taken in 1995, shows massive pillars of gas and dust towering above the nebula. It has become one of the most iconic images of the universe. The Hubble Space Telescope continues to operate and make important scientific discoveries, despite some initial technical difficulties. In 1993, a problem in the telescope's main mirror was discovered, which affected its ability to focus light properly. A repair mission was sent to the telescope in 1994 to fix the problem, and since then, the telescope has continued to work perfectly. One of the most interesting discoveries made by this amazing telescope is actually pretty recent. A report based on the data from the Hubble Space Telescope shows that there is a faint glow in space around the solar system that cannot be explained by anything we know to exist. Because they have yet to figure out the source, astronomers call this mysterious glow ghost light. We do know that this light is not coming from the stars or galaxies near the solar system, nor is it coming from dust on the solar system's plane. The researchers are not sure what the source of the light is, but they think it might be tiny particles of dust and ice left by comets. But it's only a theory that has not been confirmed. When we study the universe, we often find bright things like planets, stars, and galaxies. But from time to time, we discover some light coming from places where we didn't expect to see it, like from between planets. This light may be coming from deep within our solar system, and it may be a new phenomenon that hasn't been studied before. In other words, there may be something at the center of our galaxy that produces a lot of light. Spacecraft Voyager. I also captured images showing a lot of light coming from the edge of our solar system. How come we haven't noticed this until now? Well, because most of the light in pictures taken by the Hubble telescope comes from things close to Earth. But people usually ignore this light because they're interested in things like stars and galaxies that are farther away. We've never actually looked closely at the amount of light in the universe and where it comes from. Scientists have been using the Hubble to find faint galaxies that may have been missed before and which may be the source of this dim glow. They found that there are not enough such galaxies to account for extra light in the sky. It's not a lot of light though. It is like the glow from 10 fireflies. But it doesn't make it less important. It shows that we may be missing something. Let's look at some other important discoveries we've made with the help of Hubble. Like dark matter, which we can't see but know is there because of its effect on gravity. It makes up for about 23% of the universe. By looking at how it affects light, the Hubble telescope helped make 3D maps of where dark matter is. These maps showed that dark matter seems to be getting clumpier over time, which means it behaves very similarly to how gravity does. The Hubble telescope also discovered 2 new moons around Pluto, named Nix and Hydra, and studied the dwarf planet's changing surface. Additionally, it's found the mass of planet Eris, which is larger than Pluto. This helped scientists realize there may be similar objects in the Kuiper Belt, a region outside our solar system. This led to Pluto being reclassified as a dwarf planet. Further observations of these distant objects could help us understand the evolution of our solar system. Gamma-ray bursts are the most powerful explosions in the universe, and for a long time, no one knew where they had been coming from. Hubble helped us find out that these bursts happened in galaxies producing a lot of stars and having few heavy elements. This suggests that gamma-ray bursts happen when big stars collapse into black holes. These galaxies have lots of big stars that fall apart quickly, and the stars there don't have much heavy stuff, so they can turn into black holes. In 1994, the Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet collided with Jupiter. Hubble captured the whole event in detail, like a resourceful journalist. The impact broke the comet into a lot of small pieces, which resulted in 21 other visible collisions. The largest impact created a fireball and a dark spot on Jupiter's surface. Hubble's observations not only sparked public interest in cosmic impacts, but also provided new insights into Jupiter's atmosphere. To move forward with our list of discoveries made by the Hubble telescope, we also need to talk about black holes. They are points in space where gravity has so much force that even light cannot escape it. The gravity becomes so strong that matter gets squeezed into a very small space. We know that this can happen when a star, like the Sun, nears the end of its life. At the beginning of its life, a star's hydrogen ignites in its dense, hot core. Because of gravity, it tries to draw its own mass into a tiny point. As long as it has the energy generated by the hydrogen fusion, it also pushes outward. If we look at it this way, the life of a star depends on a delicate balance between these forces, and it can last millions or even billions of years. Once that energy is exhausted, the only force remaining is that of gravity. So some stars become black holes. Since light itself cannot escape their pull, we can't visualize black holes. For the human eye, they are invisible. We need special tools and unique telescopes to help us point them out in the universe. Hubble found that most galaxies with a central bulge of stars likely have supermassive black holes. It has also noticed a strong connection between the sizes of these black holes and their host galaxies, which might help us understand how the universe has changed over time. Then what is a supermassive black hole, you might ask? Go ahead, ask it. It is a very large black hole that is typically found at the center of a galaxy. It is millions or even billions of times more massive than the Sun. These black holes are so powerful that they can swallow stars and even entire galaxies. Scientists are still exploring these mysterious objects, but they believe that they play a crucial role in the formation and evolution of galaxies. Before Hubble, we didn't really know how old the universe was. It often led to weird paradoxes, like the one where stars discovered by astronomers were older than the universe itself. But by figuring out the approximate rate at which the universe is expanding, Hubble helped us narrow down its age, about 13.75 billion years. Trying to figure out the exact age of the universe is an important question. That's because most astronomers think that the universe has not existed forever, but Do you know what the third brightest object in the night sky is? If you said the International Space Station, you're absolutely right. And the coolest thing? You can sign up for a special service, and you'll get a text every time the ISS is traveling over your location. And if it happens at night, you can see it with the unaided eye. But be quick, because the station is very fast. It moves at a speed of 5 miles per second and circles our planet every 90 minutes. If you moved at such speed, you'd be able to make a round trip to the moon within a day. At the same time, the ISS isn't the fastest human-built object. This title belongs to the Parker Solar Probe that travels around Venus and the Sun at a speed of 430,000 miles per hour. On the bright side, astronauts on the ISS see a sunrise and sunset 16 times every 24 hours. The International Space Station is a true record breaker. It's the largest human-made object in space. It's 357 ft long from end to end, which is about the same length as a soccer field. It also weighs about 450 tons. 8 spacecraft can dock at the ISS at the same time. The working and living space of the station is bigger than a 6-bedroom house. Astronauts have 6 sleeping quarters, a gym, 2 bathrooms, and a beautiful 360-degree view bay window. And now, let's imagine what your life would be like if you were an astronaut on the International Space Station. For one thing, you'd be able to do some cool things there, like throwing boomerangs. Once, one astronaut threw a boomerang inside the International Space Station, and it returned to him. So just remember that as long as there is some air, even weightlessness won't stop you from having a bit of fun. On the ISS, you would never have to deal with disgusting smells. There is a specially trained person who smells everything astronauts take with them to space. It's done to protect them from unpleasant odors. The thing is that you can't really air the room out there if you don't like how it smells inside. That's why NASA is very careful about what kind of smells are allowed to pass through. You'd also have to get rid of your clothes instead of washing them after each use. To bring a mere 1 pound of load to the International Space Station costs more than $10,000. That's why it costs less to throw your clothes away when they get dirty than to waste water on washing them. While sleeping, you'd have exceptionally good airflow around you. Otherwise, the carbon dioxide you'd exhale would form a bubble around your head, and you'd get oxygen deprived. But what would you do on the ISS? Most likely, it would be space-related research. Astronauts on the station not only explore the possibility of future space travel, but also conduct all kinds of studies and explore the effect of microgravity on the human body. Oh, and speaking of microgravity, people often think that in space, you experience zero gravity, hence the weightlessness astronauts feel on the International Space Station. But that's not exactly true. Gravity is one of the most important forces that exist in the universe. Thanks to it, the moon can orbit Earth, and the sun doesn't float away from our home Milky Way galaxy. But astronauts on the ISS experience not full-fledged, but microgravity, which means very small gravity. Earth's gravity on the space station is only around 10 to 12% weaker than the gravity on the planet's surface. But astronauts are constantly in free fall. The spacecraft, people inside, and all the objects aboard keep falling forward. Not down, but around our planet, following a specific orbit. And since they're all falling together, the crew and the stuff inside seem to be floating. That's why astronauts can move things as heavy as hundreds of pounds with their fingertips. And even though microgravity is often called zero gravity, they're very different things. Anyway, on your way to the ISS, you'd be wearing a bright orange spacesuit. Its color is called International Orange, and it has the same shade as the paint that coats Tokyo Tower in Japan or Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. But once you reach the vast expanse of space, you'd swap orange for Snow White. The thing is, the orange suit is equipped with the stuff that can help astronauts survive if something goes wrong during the launch or landing of the spaceship. For example, a regular pumpkin suit has flares, medications, survival gear, a radio, and a parachute. As for the white, bulky spacesuits, those are EVA, which stands for extravehicular activities, suits. Their purpose is totally different from that of the orange suits. Astronauts put on EVA suits when going on a spacewalk. Such an outfit can protect them from the unfriendly conditions of outer space, with its extreme temperatures and the near vacuum. Besides, the white suit can prevent small debris from hurting space travelers. By the way, if you needed to scratch your nose while wearing your EVA suit, you would use a patch of Velcro inside the helmet. The lack of gravity also makes sneezing inside a spacesuit a serious problem. If you absolutely had to sneeze while on a spacewalk, you'd have to bend your head downward and sneeze into your chest. Otherwise, your visor would have to be equipped with tiny windshield wipers. In space, you'd often see random flashes of light, and those wouldn't be hallucinations. Cosmic rays hitting your optic nerve would create such an effect. You don't see similar flashes here on Earth because the magnetosphere doesn't let cosmic rays reach you. Before going to space, you'd have some underwater training. It's supposed to simulate zero gravity, but in fact, it has nothing in common with being in outer space. So the main purpose of this training is to see how future astronauts can deal with extreme environments. Oh, and later, during space adaptation, you might feel, let's say, weird. Around 50 to 75% of astronauts have highly unpleasant symptoms, such as vertigo, headaches, nausea, and overall tiredness. Luckily, everything usually gets back to normal within 72 hours. Before you were chosen to fly to space, you'd have to get through incredibly tough competition. According to NASA, they accept only 8 applicants out of 6,000. On top of that, the selection process takes around 18 months. If you felt homesick on a mission and started crying, your tears wouldn't flow down your face. Instead, they'd gather into thick blobs of liquid around your eyes because the water surface tension would hold your tears together. You'd have to remember to attach yourself to something before falling asleep. Otherwise, you'd easily float away from the spot where you went to bed and bump into a hard surface. That's why astronauts usually rest in sleeping bags in a small crew cabin. Another issue you'd have to deal with would be taking a shower in microgravity conditions, and it isn't an easy feat. Astronauts take a shower in an enclosed cylinder, which keeps water from floating away. They use a no-rinse shampoo, spray themselves with water to rinse off the soap, and finally, use a vacuum hose that pulls inside all the water left on their body. You'd have to get used to a dramatic change in your diet. You'd have 3 meals a day. Nothing outstanding here. But instead of sitting down to enjoy your lunch, you'd float around. Your meal would consist of some dehydrated and canned food items, and it might take a lot of time to finish it, since you'd have to be very careful not to let your food get away in the process. Now imagine needing a haircut. After all, you'd spend no less than half a year on the ISS. To change your image, you'd have to use special clippers with a vacuum attached to them,